Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video and welcome to round 13 of season 2 of our F125 My Team career mode. Yes, we're back this weekend at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, of course, for the Belgian Grand Prix. Now, after two interesting different kind of sprint weekends, if you will, we're back with an actual sprint weekend this time round. So 3 back-to-back kind of different weekends inside this series, but Belgium, I absolutely love coming back here. Of course, if you missed out on the video that went live yesterday from Silverstone, I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. The normal race was rather interesting. The reverse race was a little bit boring in the changeable conditions, or just the full wet conditions. Sadly meant there was nowhere really for anybody to overtake throughout most of the race. But it didn't stop us scoring Yuki Tsunoda's best result of the year so far. He's now up to P11 in the World Championship. Isaac Hadjar still in P9. If we take a look, as you can see, yeah, a 6th place finish, so more points on the board, and I think we're going to continue driving as Yuki this weekend as well. But an important update as well when it comes to the upgrades on the car. We are now ahead of Alpine as well, so making very, very good progress steadily up the field. Of course, if you're new, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed to the channel. We're trying to hit 150,000 subs. Also, if you want early access to all of these videos, you can click the join button down below. It costs just £1 a month, and like I said, yeah, you get early access to all of the videos going live on the channel. But without further ado then, let's return here to the Ardenne. Hopefully, more points are on the horizon.
High-speed straights, heady elevation changes and dramatic corners. What is there not to love about today? It's qualifying day here at Spa-Francorchamps.
Well, as we head then into this weekend, looks like once more we could be seeing a wet qualifying session, but a dry Grand Prix, which is definitely the way I'd rather have it inside this game. But, of course, if you guys remember last season here, it was the one race I did as Dennis Hauger, and he got a podium. So, hopefully, we can try and get another big result this weekend driving as Yuki Tsunoda. He has been often outshone by Isaac Hadjar. I think I've also just been a bit unlucky in which races I've ran as Yuki so far this campaign, but hoping we can make it through Q1 on just a single run on this medium set of tyres. Of course, we've only got the one set of tyres, so I really don't want to do 2 laps on it if I can avoid it. As we try and make our way up the Kemmel Straight, 215 miles an hour. This thing is definitely quite quick in a straight line, but it's the middle sector, well, where it absolutely comes alive. Even when I take way too much curb like that, and then completely mess myself up through the next couple of turns as well. Well, we really are going to be using this sprint qualifying session to work out how much battery we can use when we get into real qualifying. Looks like the usage is a lot better than what we saw last season here. As you can see, still got half a charge as we make our way up through Blanchemont. I remember last season you basically were only using it to get through ROUGE and then just leaving it in hot lap mode around the rest of the lap then. But purple sector 1, purple sector 2. Oh, a huge wheel spin out of sector 3, but a 140.8 sends us straight to the top of the board. Well, there we go then. Sprint Q1 in the books. Oscar Piastri 8/10 clear of myself, but we end up in P2, just ahead of Esteban Ocon and George Russell. Definitely seems like Mercedes have found something with that car recently, because they have suddenly now got a rocket ship at this stage of the campaign. Isaac Hadjar, though, as well, makes it into Q2, so good to see for our teammate. I guess the big shocker, Lance Stroll again out in Q1. Hulkenberg 6 seconds off the pace. That Sauber is terrible. Well, Nico Hulkenberg then, that Q1 time only puts him 1 second inside the 107% rule. Which, of course, is still a thing in Formula 1, just where most of the cars nowadays are so competitive, it's just really not an issue, so I'm sure the German would have been allowed into the Grand Prix anyway, but goes to just explain how bad that Sauber car is right now. You know, they're reliably kind of 3-4 seconds off the pace in the dry conditions, but heading out then for one ditch run in Q2 as well. I'm feeling pretty confident in the car this weekend, so hopefully we can try and deliver quite a good result. But yeah, let's just see what we can do then. Both Mercedes dancing ever closer to a sub 1 minute 40 around this circuit. That is utterly ridiculous, especially in this ground effect era of car. These cars as well don't feel as quick as they did inside F124, so even more impressive. we seem to be very, very quick through Sector 1, but losing a little bit to those Mercedes in Sector 2. Can't help but feel it's the final sector where we are losing a large majority of the time, but Isaac Hadjar, he will not be making it through then and into Q3, but we should be pretty safe. We're 1.7 seconds up on Jack Crawford by the end of Sector 2, so I'm hoping, as long as I don't mess up the bus stop, we should be good. Nice and tidy as we try and get the power down on the exit. Use the last bit of our battery. Oh, really close to a 139, but again we end up second. Well, that Mercedes must be very, very quick, but very, very difficult to drive, because at the moment, either George or Oscar seems to be able to get a lap out of it, never the pair of them. Ferrari, though, starting to show their hand a little bit more in P3 and P4, but it is your typical top 10 there. Your top 4 teams, Alex Albon and myself, making it through and into Q3. Yeah, Isaac Hadjar down in P14, a little bit disappointing for him, but could we get our first ever pole position inside this series? Well, here we go then, with changeable conditions on the horizon, ready for real qualifying. These might be the fastest laps we ever see around the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris have dipped into the 139s. Can we join them here as at the final corner? Nice and tidy on the loud pedal as we eye at the braking point for turn 1, just at the 100-metre board. Oh, a little bit aggressive actually on the way in, but get a nice straight line exit. And we're able to get the power down and carry that speed in towards ROUGE and Raidillon. Of course, completely wide open. Use a little bit of battery to give yourself the speed through the bottom of the hill, and then keep draining the battery as we make our way up out onto the Kemmel Straight there. 217 to 18 miles an hour as we try and just charge back up the pack a little bit. Up towards the end of the straight, 5th gear through the first part of Lecombe, down to 4th through the second, and then back up into 5th through the third part there. A little bit of bottoming out over the curbing, but that shouldn't cost us too much. Brake at the curb as we head in towards Malmedy. 3rd gear through the first part, and then just wind the car through the second and the third there. Really carry the speed off the corner. Dip the wheels in the gravel. Poo on, not a problem. Completely flat out. No issues whatsoever through there. We'll even just use a little bit of battery to carry the speed off the exit. I'm hoping that Ferrari can give us a little bit of a slipstream round in towards the final part of the circuit there, as again, just dipping that rear wheel into the gravel ever so slightly. Nice and tidy on the exit as we are really, really trying to push the limits of this circuit. I think Leclerc now has just got on with it a little bit, so I can't get close to him. But green sector 1, green sector 2, I think, you know, we're in the fight towards the front. I've just got to try and nail the bus stop chicane then, as we're going to be eyeing up at about the 100-metre board on the way in. Nice straight line braking. Attack the curbs through the first part, attack the curbs through the second. Foot to the floor on the exit. Get on that loud pedal as early as you can. A 39.7. And unsurprisingly, we go P2 yet again. Well, there we go then. Oscar Piastri, pole position here for the sprint in Belgium. We will line up P2 though. Lando Norris, a 139.999 for the Ferrari driver there. So 3 of us dipping under the 1-minute 40s. But this car around this track feels absolutely fantastic. Let's get into the sprint race.
Forget pit stops, forget fuel management. It's pedal to the metal all the way here as we get ready for today's sprint. Spa-Francorchamps today, a circuit that spans 4.35 miles. There are tons of elevation changes along the way too. 19 corners making up this circuit, with 9 of those to the right and the remaining 10 to the left. This track's a great one for fans of pure speed, and the average lap speed comes close to a whopping 145 miles per hour. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's sprint. Oscar Piastri lines up on pole position, and Yuki Tsunoda completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Norris, Russell, Pierre Gasly and Sainz, Ocon, Verstappen, Leclerc and Alex Albon, Colapinto, Doohan, Jack Crawford and Hadjar, Lawson, Behrman, Andrea Kimi Antonelli and Pepe Martin, Bortoletto, Stroll, Aaron and Nico Hülkenberg rounds off the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head trackside for today's sprint.
Well, we have got to try and be quite smart and sensible in this sprint race today. Medium tyres are definitely going to be the way to go. But Oscar Piastri and that Mercedes, we know how rapid they are at the moment. And very, very good, especially in a straight line. So we've just got to try and play the patience game. We need to get good points here. That is goal number 1. We've got to try and get Yuki closer to Alex Albon in the World Championship. 5 red lights are on. It's going to be lights out, and away we go then. A little bit wheel spinny, actually quite wheel spinny. Lando Norris and George Russell will immediately say thank you very much in towards turn 1, and we even end up banging wheels with Pierre Gasly there, trying to get the power down on the exit. And you can see again, Lando Norris has got the drive off of the corner, so he and Pierre Gasly will almost go wheel to wheel. I mean, look at that Russell. He's gone from like 5th to 1st off the start there as everybody behind trying to get a run. I'm going to try and go around the outside of Lando Norris again as 3 wide for the lead. But can we make it 4 wide? We're going to try and find an avenue down the inside in towards the corner there. Somehow, Russell again gets all the way around the outside. This is proper sprint racing here at the start of the event as we will get down the inside of Gasly and Lando Norris. And that might be the wildest start to a race I will ever get inside F1 25. Utterly ridiculous through those first few corners there. Oscar Piastri somehow hangs on. George Russell makes huge gains at the start. We only lose 1 spot in all of that, and somehow everybody's come unscathed without front wing damage or anything else. What a ridiculous start to this race then. I've said it before, I need to get my heart rate monitor set up inside F1 25, because it would have been spiking in that moment there as through in towards the end of Sector 2 then. You can already see, yeah, those Mercedes trying to make a bit of a break for it at the front of the order. We've just got to try and keep up and pray that we can make a bit of a gap to Pierre Gasly behind. Well, George Russell then, he does seem to be kind of hanging on to Oscar Piastri's coattails, but not really able to make much of an impact against his teammate right now. So we're just going to test the waters. Oh, and see if we can have a look then. To the inside we go. 222 miles an hour then. As soon as we're the car in front, we'll try and dictate the line up into Le Mans. And, well, now we've split the Mercedes once more here, so back to where we started. But Oscar Piastri, yeah, he's just trying to push, just to build up a bit of a gap, but Russell now dropping away slightly. Could we get the Mercedes out of our DRS and then only have one of them to focus on? Oh, no. Again, a bit too much wheel spin down at La Source, and I think this time round we're going to be vulnerable to George Russell. I mean, not even before we've got into ROUGE as wheel to wheel. We will go with the Mercedes, man. They're side by side through the exit as well. And now George Russell, he's going to barrel around my outside then and up back into P2 here. But I mean, yeah, I don't think he's quite going to be able to get back in the range of Oscar Piastri unless he's looked after his tyres very, very well. Can we just stick with George to maybe get a run back on him? That Mercedes is not only so much quicker than our car, but basically everybody else's inside this game at the moment. I'll be happy if we can split them. And making his way then out of Sector 3. He won the reverse grid race last weekend. Oscar Piastri is going to make it back-to-back here with a victory at the Ardenne. A very, very ominous message from Mercedes, though, against everybody else. George Russell already leading this World Championship, and he's going to continue extending his gap over Lando Norris and Ferrari through the final corners. Mercedes, it is going to be a 1-2 here in the sprint race at Spa. We will join them on the podium. Very, very happy. Yes, mate. Well, there we are. Oscar Piastri, a dominant display from pole position. He led every lap. He didn't really have too much pressure there when all is said and done. 1.4 seconds clear of George Russell. We did claim fastest lap through a little bit of ERS trickery and getting a lot of DRS there. Just ahead of Lando Norris, Esteban Ocon, Pierre Gasly, Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz will round out your point scorers there. Max Verstappen failing to score in the sprint race today, just ahead of Alexander Albon. Isaac Hadjar down in P15, a bit disappointing for him. What does that do to our World Championship? Well, it means, yeah, Russell now a 30-point lead up at the top of the table. Tsunoda still 14 points back behind Alex Albon, but an 8-point lead now ahead of Liam Lawson. Constructors-wise, Ferrari now just 9 ahead of Mercedes, as we are just picking up good, solid, reliable points throughout kind of the middle stage of this campaign. But anyway, let's head into real qualifying then. We've got changeable conditions ahead of us. Hopefully, we can put it on the front row once more.
High-speed straights, heady elevation changes and dramatic corners. What is there not to love about today? It's qualifying day here at Spa-Francorchamps.
But with a minute and a half then left on the clock, the circuit is just beginning to dry out. I know the delta that the team give you isn't perfectly accurate inside F125, but they do reckon the intermediate is becoming more and more competitive towards the end of Q1, and well, we're either going to end up right down the rear of the field, or hopefully going to see ourselves comfortably through and into Q2. I've just got to make sure that I navigate ROUGE successfully this time. As we cross over the start-finish line there with a minute left on the clock, down in towards turn 1, immediately the grip feels pretty good there, getting the power down nice and tidy on the exit. I reckon we made a good choice here. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, because of course we know anything can happen here in qualifying. So just a bit of a blend as we make our way up through a ROUGE and Radion, but already finding those about 3 seconds then through Sector 1. Surely this is a good sign. Well, purple in Sector 1, purple in Sector 2, 3 seconds up on the time set by Pepe Marti at the moment. But yeah, I think we have seen a couple of guys make it into Q2 then that you wouldn't normally expect to see. I'm just hoping that we're not about to knock Isaac Hadjar out in Q1, because we are almost 7 seconds up then.
Quick lap, or that's qualifying over for us.
Thanks for telling me that, Mark, when we're going through the bus stop to finish off a huge improvement. Surely this is going to be P1, and it is. Well, look at that then, 2.2 seconds clear. It's a shame this isn't the Aston Martin driver career mode, where we only run 1 session for qualifying there, but Isaac Hadjar makes it through into Q2. No major surprises. Oscar Piastri a little bit closer to the drop zone than I'm sure he would have wanted, but both Alpines, both Saubers, Andrea, Kimi, Antonelli and Pepe Marti out. Let's see what happens in the second session. And into Q2 then, really there was no point in trying to go out early on in the session, because the circuit was just drying up. So again, we've got it all to do on this run, but hopefully we're going to be able to put ourselves right towards the front of the order then, as the grip actually are feeling very, very good. So we should be able to get some nice laps in when we make it into Q3. See Lando Norris, though, currently down in the drop zone. That would not do his championship hopes any good. But we just need to make sure we get a lap hooked up. There we go, green through Sector 1, purple through Sector 2 again then. So I think being the last car on a lap has really, really helped us out. Not convinced this will be as quick as we saw in sprint qualifying. We've certainly got to try and give it a whirl then as we make our way up towards the bus stop chicane once again. Could we possibly go sub 100 seconds once more though? It's nice and tidy through that final chicane. Don't need to take any risk. We know we've got a car that is quick here. 140.3. Again, P1. Please, 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 can we do this in Q3? And there we go, 2 tenths clear of Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc. Big surprise though, Esteban Ocon out in Q2. So he'll be very, very disappointed with that one. So Liam Lawson will make it through at the Red Bull's expense. Isaac Hadjar, again, down in P14, a little way off the pace. A bit disappointing for him. But Alex Albon there, P4. That Williams looks quick. Well, here we are then, the longest circuit on the F1 calendar, and we've got 3 cars covered by less than a tenth of a second. George Russell, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri all right there in the fight. But as we get ready to start our final qualifying lap, I've just got to make sure, as we're getting a little bit cheeky there, holding up one of the McLarens, just use up a little bit of battery on the run towards the start-finish line. And Piastri on 139.2, there is not a chance we are beating that. Team reckon there's like 6 tenths in it.
10 to 15 minutes.
Yep, that's not going to be a problem, Mark, as we head out in for our final Q3 run. It's just attacking a bit too much curb through the first part of ROUGE and Radion, and that'll compromise our speed as we make our way out onto the Kemmel Straight there. 217 miles an hour, but again, it's all about the battery management, as we have got a few slower cars as well in the way that have finished off their runs. Carlos Sainz is going to be the first one of them, but we need to stay committed. Thank you very much, Carlos. Gets out of the way. I want this to be the lap of my life around this circuit. So we were a quarter of a second up. Down through Malmedy there. Leave the car wide open through the exit. Carry the speed as we make our way down in towards Pouon. A little bit wide through the first part, but we'll gather it up on the exit there and try again, just to keep those wheels turning as quickly as we possibly can. 4th gear through the first part of Stavolo. So try and make our way through. Sorry, that was Fanyas. This is Stavolo, of course. Really, really tidy so far then. 4 tenths up at the moment. I don't know whether anybody else has improved. Lando Norris on a 139.5. Just got to make sure we save a little bit of battery ready for those final couple of corners. But again, This should be a 1 minute 39 as long as I don't mess up the final chicane. Let's just try and be brave on the entry as George Russell only good enough for P2 here once more. Through the final corners we go. Get a little bit of wheel spin on the exit. We just nailed the battery. And again we go P3. Well, there we are then. We almost denied Mercedes a front row lockout ready for the start of the GP, but 5 cars covered by less than 3/10. But it is Oscar Piastri again that will line up on pole position here. These cars are rapid at the moment, but we've got a race to get on with. Hopefully, we can pick up another podium.
Welcome to this visit to the Ardenne countryside. Spa-Francorchamps hosted its first Grand Prix back in 1925, and this historic track is loved by drivers and fans alike. And us here in the commentary box too. So it's a warm welcome from the Belgian Grand Prix. So here we are once again, ready to go racing through the Ardenne forest. 4.35 miles of long straights, fast corners and massive elevation changes. It makes this not only one of the most exciting circuits on the calendar, but one that makes for some consistently high quality racing as well. Simply put it, there's no place quite like it. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Oscar Piastri lines up on pole position, just ahead of George Russell, who starts this event from P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Tsunoda, Verstappen, Lando Norris and Sainz, Gasly, Albon, Leclerc and Liam Lawson, Ocon, Stroll, Franco Colapinto and Hadjar, Crawford, Aaron, Jack Doohan and Andrea Kimi Antonelli, Pepe Marti, Behrman, Bortoletto and Nico Hülkenberg rounds off the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
Well, if the start to the GP is anywhere near as exciting as the start to the sprint, we could be in for some fireworks here. 22 more laps ahead of us then here of the Belgian Grand Prix. Medium to hard tyres. It shouldn't be particularly bad for tyre wear around this circuit this afternoon, but we need to get a better start than we did in that sprint. Luckily, we have the inside line for turn 1. It's 5 red lights. Let's give me lights out. Oh, and away we go then. And I don't think anybody got a particularly good start, apart from maybe Lando Norris behind us, as Russell again tries to have a look around the outside of his teammate. At that first corner, we will cover off Lando Norris, and hopefully Max Verstappen as well then, as we make our way down in towards ROUGE and Ardenne. Who's going to back out? It's certainly not going to be me. It's certainly not going to be the Dutchman either, but luckily able to carry the speed through the corner as Russell will claim P1. Oscar Piastri trying to get a run back to the inside though of his teammate. Mercedes Civil War up at the front of the order. Hamilton Rosberg all those years ago as Russell tries to go the long way around there, and Oscar Piastri will hang on then. Got to be careful on the heavy fuel as Verstappen just barges into the side of me through the exit of the corner and then breaks a little bit early down in towards Malmedy here. So can we try and go all the way around his outside once again? Yes, we can. Shame I was a little bit too aggressive there, put myself in the gravel. As again, we'll have to try and defend from the Dutchman as we make our way down the hill. Just run a tiny bit wide there through the exit, and already that's given Mercedes a huge gap at the front of the order. No idea what's happened a bit further behind as well, because Alex Albon, I believe there's a huge gap between him and Liam Lawson just in front. So yeah, it must have been a lot of kind of 2 or 3 wide racing early on, but the Mercedes are gone already. So unless they kind of really start battling each other, I think our fight's going to be with the cars behind us. Verstappen again then trying to get a run on me up in towards Blanchimont. Luckily again, we've just about got the straight line speed in the car to hang on. Using that slipstream there, Verstappen trying to look around the outside. Again, just out braking myself slightly. Got to get used to heavy fuel.
We can now use DRS. DRS now.
We've got yellows, so I think that was the Williams must have had front wing damage then, because someone has peeled into the pit lane at the end of lap 1.
Clear.
Well, I guess that means unless we get a safety car, most of your point scores are looking pretty safe. There is a huge gap behind now. I think Esteban Ocon as well got a bit held up in that group, but yeah, Verstappen though, surely he's going to get a run on me here. Nothing we can really do about it against the Dutchman. Go try and catch the Mercedes for us, Max. That would be very useful. Oh, we've got yellows a bit further back then. This is very early for someone to be suffering a mechanical failure, and it looks to be a Haas car then Is that Jack Crawford? Is that Andrea Kimi Antonelli? I think that might be Crawford. Nope, it's Antonelli that is out of the race very, very early on. I'm trying not to bother hounding Max too much here too early, just to see if the Mercedes do battle and we can get a little bit closer again. But honestly, yeah, I think they're just gone. So we'll give Max a couple more laps to see if that gap can start coming down. Otherwise, we may as well just battle him, mightn't we, for shots and goggles. Well, it has been a very, very consistent season from Max Verstappen at the moment. Has not really had a car that's been able to win races reliably. Has chalked up, obviously, one win a few rounds ago. But hopefully now we're going to be able to try and get a run on, obviously, Yuki Tsunoda's former Formula 1 teammate. So, yeah, I mean, this car this weekend has felt absolutely phenomenal. 220 miles an hour there as we pull to the outside. Not really a lot that he can do in that scenario there, as back up into the podium places we go. As I said, we haven't finished lower than P3 in any sessions so far. I want that to continue. Well, in. Don't stay out, don't stay out, don't stay out. We've got to make sure they get into the pit lane, but which of those Mercs is going to be diving in as well then? Looks to be Russell that's been given the priority here. World Championship leader, that kind of makes sense, I guess. I guess you kind of justify it for either of them, couldn't you? But nice aggressively on the pit lane entry. I'm hoping Russell might get held up a little bit from one of those cars behind, but I don't think it's quite going to happen here. Is everybody moving over to a set of the hard compound tyre? Yeah, tyre wear has been slightly worse than I thought it would be around this venue. Come on, we need a good stop. That's not great by the team there. Mark clearly doesn't want to talk to me either.
No more scheduled pit stops. Let's go.
Oh, nice and easy as we try and get the power down on the exit, but still out in clear air. Yeah, Gasly and I believe Lando Norris still yet to pit. But again, we've taken a little bit more time out of George. Problem is, I've got no battery. I don't think we'll be quick enough to close in on Oscar Piastri too much. But it might leave the Mercedes battling each other again. And there we go, immediately Oscar Piastri obliterates my fastest lap. But is Russell going to stay inside the range of his teammate there, down in towards ROUGE? I think he's just... Oh, I think he might just be outside of it, actually. It's going to be mighty close between them, but I think Oscar Piastri has done it. So George Russell, then, he could be about to fall back into our clutches throughout these final few laps. I don't think I've ever driven a car as hard as I have so far inside F1 25 in this race. I just want to be able to have something to show for it. Oh, we've got some lap traffic now to try and deal with. One of those Salvers just getting out of the way. George Russell a little bit awkwardly in towards the bus stop chicane, and maybe Hulkenberg can give me some DRS up towards the top of the hill. He's actually held up both Mercedes there quite badly, so I'm hoping we can get in his range on the run down in towards ROUGE then. But I'm hoping we're not too close that he backs out of it too soon. No, he has! Damn it!
Dropping back by about 3/10 a lap. Well done.
Oh no, I think he's given it to us. I think Hulkenberg might have just given the DRS to me almost perfectly here. We'll wait and see for official confirmation. Yes, he has! Thank you, Nico Hulkenberg there. It might only be worth a couple of extra tenths, but it is super, super useful at this stage of the day, as Oscar Piastri definitely seemed to get held up the worst from those blue flags, but Russell still not back within a second of his teammate. George Russell then, this has been the opportunity that I'm sure he never thought he was going to get towards the end of the GP, but Oscar Piastri, he needs this win if he wants to keep building up momentum towards the end of the World Championship. But George Russell surely is going to try and have a look to the outside, goes one Mercedes against the other, and Oscar Piastri forced to concede the position this time round. We just have not got enough towards the end, but which Merc is going to claim victory today? It is anybody's guess. One more lap to go then here from the Ardenne. I think, look at that, Russell now. He's basically got a second over Oscar Piastri. So that gap has really opened up then towards the end. And well, as we've said before, that Mercedes is absolutely rapid, but it really does have a sensitive window inside this game. And I think Russell, he might just actually keep it out of the DRS range here with one more to go. So George Russell, he's going to probably lead about 5 of the laps today. But he's only going to lead the one that really matters when you get to the checkered flag here. And Oscar Piastri, he will be very, very disappointed in how on earth this one has come away from him right towards the end. I mean, he's nowhere near George by the time they get up through the top of the hill. But for us, though, I'm not going to complain about P3. Again, those Mercedes far too quick. The fact we've had the pace over everybody else, I would think we can be very, very impressed with as well. And as we head to some other high-speed circuits, Yuki Tsunoda, I'm hoping this would have built some confidence for what should be our #1 driver so far this season. Charles Leclerc, 8 seconds behind on this final lap. And that has pretty much been down to raw pace and a little bit of strategy as well. Like I said, I don't think I've ever driven a Formula 1 car as hard as I have this one today throughout the 22 laps here at the Ardenne, but when you get this place hooked up, it is so much fun.
Okay, gap ahead, 2.9 seconds.
In towards the final few corners then, here, the Belgian Grand Prix. George Russell, I don't think any of us were predicting this until about the final 5 laps here, but he is going to claim victory and once again further extend his World Championship lead. Mercedes have dominated the Belgian Grand Prix. Another 1-2 for them. We will come through though in P3. Very happy to be on the podium once more.
And the best of British and the best on the track. It's George Russell who wins.
Well, are we looking at a champion in waiting today, Crofty, with that kind of performance? They were driving with the kind of lack of pressure that you quite often see when a driver knows, they just know within themselves that that championship is within their reach.
It's time to bring out the bubbly and spray it around. It's our podium celebrations. By George, he was good today. The top step awaits for George Russell.
Well, there we are then, your podium in both the Sprint and the GP, featuring a Mercedes 1-2 and Yuki Tsunoda in P3. They're very, very happy with the result we had. It also was a Ferrari in 4th, a Red Bull in 5th, a McLaren in 6th, another Ferrari in 7th, and Carlos Sainz in P8 there. That is staggeringly impressive. Even a Red Bull in P9. If that doesn't go to show you the domination of the big teams at the moment, I don't know what will there. But Russell, like we said, I don't think he was expecting this win until those final few laps. But yeah, Oscar Piastri getting held up by Nico Hülkenberg really did make the difference. In terms of your championship, Russell now a 49-point lead up at the top of the table. But for the first time this season, we've got both cars inside the top 10 overall. Lando Norris still ahead of Charles Leclerc. Oscar Piastri now over to P4 ahead of Verstappen, with Gasly now ahead of Esteban Ocon. Constructors-wise, Mercedes now for the first time this year, I believe, take the lead ahead of ahead of Ferrari and Red Bull. We've now got twice the points of Williams as well, so feeling pretty good about how our season is going so far. Further down the order in the Drivers' Championship, Lawson still in P12 ahead of Lance Stroll. And you can still see, yeah, both V-Carbs and Kick Sauber's yet to score a point. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure to leave a like, get yourself subscribed, and we'll be back very soon when Formula 1 returns ready for, I believe, the Hungarian Grand Prix.